We're excited to have one of our best vendors of late, and that's Stratus. They've always been good, high redundancy servers, known them more in the process world, and they now have a new product, the ZTC, which they're going to talk about it. And especially if you're fighting with your IT folks, this device or this servers really is a set it and forget it type thing. And we're fortunate to have Greg, Walter, and Mike representing Stratus with us today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Greg. Do you
Okay.
want to take us from here?
Yep, sure. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. And hello, everybody. Greg Cooper. I live right outside of Syracuse, New York. I was a Rockwell salesperson for almost 18 years in this territory, so I recognize some of the folks that signed up for this class. I handle the Stratus sales for the Northeast, and I've got two of my smart guys on the call with me, Walter and Mike. And I'm just going over a few quick slides about Stratus. Walter will talk about the product we're here to show you, and Mike will give you guys a quick demo. Ask questions at any time. You can see my screen, I assume.
Yes, we can. Cool.
Okay, good. Just a quick blurb on Stratus and who we are. Been around for well over 40 years, and we've got two products that we sell in the industrial space. One's called the FT server, FT standing for fault tolerant, not factory talk, and then the ZTC Edge, which is what we're going to show you today. The FT server has been around for all these years, and we've got over 21,000 of them installed. We monitor these around the globe. We've been an Encompass partner, as you can see, with Rockwell for 13 plus years. We've got our Stratus servers running Plant PAX and the PTUs, as well as in Rockwell offices around the United States. So Stratus has done a ton in the water wastewater industry, a lot in the food and beverage industry. You can see some of the slides. Anywhere you can think of a critical application running software needs to be protected and cannot accept downtime, is where you'll see Stratus servers being embedded. Airports, 911 call centers, credit card companies, huge install base of credit card companies. They don't want to ever lose a transaction, and they're monitoring thousands a second. And again, I mentioned food and beverage, done a lot in the dairy industry. And lately, I've been on board for over a year now. We've been doing a lot in the pharmaceuticals as well. And this gives you a little overview of some of the logos that you'll recognize, some of the customers that have our product in there and operational, and we're monitoring it from discrete to continuous. And as I mentioned before, critical applications are our strong suit, but also the ease of using our product is another reason that customers like to go and use it. We'll do a quick demo on the ease of use of the ZTC. But one other thing I wanted to mention is that our long life, 10 plus years of our servers running helps the industrial automation space not have to worry about doing a computer refresh every 3 to 5 years. So a big driving factor of folks using Stratus is them taking advantage of virtualization and the benefits of putting multiple applications on one server. With that comes the risk of one server going down and losing everything. We like to say, if you're going to put everything in one box, it better be pretty damn strong. So that's where we see a lot of our customers taking the advantages of virtualization and the benefits, but also being backed up with a rock solid hardware solution to run it on. And in typical industrial solutions that we see now, we talk to customers with either, across the top, no solution, IT solutions, and OT solutions. There's a lot of complexity when customers start getting into wanting to have redundancy or fault tolerance and building that on their own, or having somebody build it for them with the custom scripts, with the testing, the refresh cycle, and even when the best virtualization high availability clusters are built, there's still fault recovery, not fault prevention. So there's still some time that you would lose some data, and in some industries, they cannot afford to lose any data at all. And this is more of another just a visual of actually what it would look like, with the virtualization layer and your historians, your batch, your asset center, your Ethernet manager running on these hardware solutions, and the benefits obviously as far as why you'd want to put it on a Stratus server. And where does Stratus fit within a Rockwell solution? So you can see some of the software packages on the right. And where we kind of fit as far as data center with the FT server would not necessarily a data center, but probably a clean room that you want to put that into a rack. And when we get into the ZTC Edge, you can see that this is mounted in a panel on the plant floor, close to where the information is being crunched. If you're following the Edge industry, computing, and how much it's growing and how much data is produced and collected off of the plant floor devices, this is where this product comes into play. And I'll show you after this presentation, or Mike setting up the demo, a sizing document as well that we can share with you folks afterwards. This kind of shows a plant PAX architecture for a solution in a box is what we call it, up to 2,000 I/O points, different controllers. We've had characterization reports as well that we can share with you. So as I mentioned, the ZTC Edge, and Walter will get into this, simple, protected, autonomous. Those are the 3 points that we like to talk about when we show this product. And, simple to deploy, protected from harsh environments, hardware failure. It's got built-in cybersecurity, and autonomous, self-healing, self-protecting, self-synchronizing. So I'll hand it over to Walter now to do some discussions on this.
Okay, thank you, Coop. All right. Well, as you can see from the picture here, it's a small form factor type of compute node. It's got it's all solid state, so there's no moving parts to it. It's IP40 out of the box. You can see there's the large heat sink on that. So basically, the ZTC, when it comes out of the box, you can either get it in a single or a dual node. It allows for selectable availability, meaning it could be either high available or fault tolerant mode. But the operating environment, what we call the Stratus Redundant Linux, comes preloaded on the ZTC itself. So you don't have to do a initial load of the operating system on the ZTC. It's already there. The virtual machine operating systems that we do support are Windows and Linux. We give you a ZTC Edge console. Mike will be showing that in his demo, but basically, if you're familiar with VMware, basically it's the management console to create your virtual machines, manage your virtual machines, create your networks and your disks. We do support OVF files and OVA images as well, so you can import or deploy even VMware images on the ZTC. The boots that you can support are BIOS and UEFI, so this way we give you the multiple areas where you can support that. On the security side, there's a host-based firewall. You can see this in the preferences when Mike shows this to you. We restrict USB ports automatically. So if you need to use USB port, you have to go in there and physically and manually enable your USB ports. We have the roles-based access, where you can manage users and groups. We have the secure communications, what's it, secure IP tables, where it's enabled at the server level or at the virtual machine level. We also give you a trusted boot, meaning that the server will not boot unless there are Stratus secured certificates on that. So we try to make it as secure as possible for you. And we also give you an SNMP support, so we supply MIBs for you. It's very easy to set up. We also give you an OPC UA on the server itself, and we do support the REST APIs. So we play well with all these interoperability applications that are available to you. To manage it, it's very simple. So you can set thresholds and alerts. So to say if your CPU or memory or disk storage is starting to exceed what you want it to be for that virtual machine, it could send you an alert and let you know that your CPU is being overloaded. Maybe you want to add another CPU to your virtual machine. You can manage your virtual machines, and you can add more storage to the virtual machines. You can add another network to the virtual machine as well. We can automatically check for updates on the Stratus Redundant Linux operating system. So there's a new update, a new firmware updates. It can automatically send you an email saying, no, they're ready for you. So we can make it as simple as possible, so you don't have to worry about managing it and looking for those updates yourselves. We also have backup and restore settings. So this way, once you create your ZTC environment, you can back up those preferences, and say, if you get another ZTC, you want to enable it again, you can restore those preferences. So this way, you don't have to go through configuration all over again. And we'll also provision the scale, so you can take a virtual machine, let's say it's 40 gigabytes, and actually deploy it on the ZTC without any changes. As I mentioned before, it comes in either a single node, which you see on the left, or a dual node, which is on the right. They both have the virtualization on it, but on the right-hand side, the dual node is our typical solution. Basically, that's where you can select your availability, either high availability, which is a cluster-like solution, so the virtual machine fails on one node or the node fails, the virtual machine will automatically restart on the other node. Or in a fault tolerance, so if you lose a node, you just continue to process without any loss of data or transactions. Another key feature, a nice feature of the ZTC in a dual node is you can see there's two cables that are attached in the two. Those are our management cables. So it manages this synchronization between the two, the live migration of your virtual machine, the redirection of NIC ports if one of the NIC ports fails on one of the nodes. But it also can allow for a split site, meaning you can have one of those nodes at one in the factory and one of those nodes off campus somewhere. It all depends on the communication link that you have between the two. So if you're in a high availability mode, it has to be less than 7 milliseconds of latency between those two nodes. And for fault tolerance, it's got to be less than 2 milliseconds latency between those two nodes. So we give you a lot of flexibility there. All right, so for the protection, so out of the box, on the dual node, your data is replicated between the two. So the data is synchronized on both of those nodes. So if you lose one node, the data is still synchronized and still current and quiesced. You can share the system resources between the two. So if one of the NIC ports on node 0 fails, the traffic will get routed through the availability links, those blue and yellow cables, and out of the NIC port on the working node. So this is done all automatically without any user intervention. You can use the VM migration. So if you see you have a bad NIC port on one of those nodes, the system understands that we have a degraded node. So we'll actually live migrate your virtual machine from the degraded node to the working node, all in the background. And once that node is repaired, it automatically restores that node back on the original node that was running on. This is the customized available levels. This is where I mentioned it could be either selected as a HA, high availability, or a fault tolerant. So the ZTC is resource, not constrained, but we have two models on it. We have a 100 and 110i. So depending on the model you have, we can see up to anywhere between 3 to 4 virtual machines. And I'll get into the specs probably in a couple slides coming forward. All right, so to manage the ZTC, you don't need any specialized skills. The ZTC is self-aware, it understands what's going on. If a component does fail or if one of the nodes does fail, the ZTC will deposit a call to Stratus. We'll send you another component, over via courier. So you walk over to the broken node, unplug it, take it off the control panel, pop the new one, plug the cables in, and walk away. There's no user intervention needed. It will automatically recognize that there's a node attached. It will go through diagnostic initialization and synchronize between the two. So this is all done in the background. So you see, you don't have to have any specialized skill sets to manage the ZTC once it's in the field. So here are the two nodes. The ZTC 100i is a single socket 4 cores. So it gives you 8 virtual cores, 32 gigs of memory, and a solid state 512 gigabyte drive. So you can see here, now this one's only highly available. So this one only can do HA. So this is a cluster node because if you need to use the fault tolerance, there's a little bit of an overhead. So the 110i, we introduced the 110i, which is a single socket 6 core, comes with 64 gigs of memory and 2 terabytes of solid state storage. This one can be either high available or fault tolerant. So Mike will show you how these are created and what the resources that are required to run each one of these virtual machines that you have on there. And again, the operating systems are Windows or Linux that are supported on it. It has high tolerances to heat, vibration, and humidity, and it's IP40 rated. All right, Coop, you ready?
Yeah. I'm going to switch it over here. Mike's going to show the demo. I know we talked fast. Do we have any questions so far from the group?
Nothing in the chat yet.
Okay. And one thing I mentioned while Mike's setting up his demo and shows you how this thing works, I can share this with everybody on the call. We have a very nice sizing tool here. If you want to go to get a data sheet, you can go directly and get a data sheet. If you want to go to, you want to go to the sizing tool. We have all the Rockwell software products loaded in here, and it gets updated whenever there's anything new. So if you want to do plant PAX, small consolidation, you want that to be high availability. It builds out the part number and the resources that are required for it. So we do that with both our products. So there's FT serving document here as well. And then we have all the resources in here and the guidelines for them for the Rockwell software. Plant P and 5.0 just came out recently. And what a lot of distributors, customers, systems integrators like is our reference links as well. So here's the Stratus reference links to characterization reports within Manager, different videos, as well as the Rockwell links. A lot of customers like having this handy as well. Even Innovation Suite software is available through this link as well. So I will relinquish control here. And then Mike, you ready to go?
I'm ready. Everybody can see my screen?
Gotcha.
Okay, good deal. So I wanted to give you a quick showing here. This is the 110i up here. I also have the 100i, and I just kind of want to go over what do you expect out of the box, right? So out of the box with a dual node solution, we're going to ship you 2 of these nodes. And the first thing you can see right off the bat is that heavy heat sink that we were talking about. You'll notice that in the front here, there's no openings for a fan, and that's because there's no fan in here. All the heat is dissipated through this heat sink, so it's very ruggedized, very designed for the factory floor here. So out of the box, you'll get these 2 nodes. They're already set up with the virtualization layer. That's called the Stratus Redundant Linux, so you don't have to go out and buy virtualization. It's already built in. Out of the box, you get 2 power supplies. They plug into your power connections here. You also have 2 cables that come with it. You can see back over here, these are the availability links that Walter was talking about. We have a blue and a yellow. They correspond to the blue and yellow for the cable here. And that provides the synchronization between the 2 nodes. You also get this nice flyer that comes with it. It's almost like a brochure you would get with a router. It breaks down exactly what the ports are in the front, tells you what you need over here for the installation, like a monitor, keyboard, screwdriver, and then over here what IP addresses are required when you stand up the system. And if I open up the page here, you can see it's really quick, 6 easy steps to stand up the solution. So, you plug in a monitor for step 1, step 2, you're turning on the power. Eventually, the system goes through and tells you to plug in the blue and the yellow cables and the power of the second unit. And then you come to our page over here, the website, where you manage the solution. So 6 steps. After about 30 minutes, you're ready to deploy your first image. So it's a very easy, very simple system to stand up when you start looking at a virtualization platform. So I'm going to switch gears. Everybody can still hear me, right? Because the camera's facing the other way. So on this screen here, I just want to go over real quick about the virtualization layer. We have the Stratus Redundant Linux, then the availability layer, and that's all on top of that virtualized platform that we were talking about. So each node has that pre-installed. After the 30 minutes, you're ready to install your first VM. So here, I got a depiction of VM1, VM2. This one happens to be Windows, this one's Linux. But you can see over here on node 1 that those VMs, VM1 and VM2, are kind of grayed out. They're getting backed up constantly in an offline state when it's HA. So VM1 and VM2 are getting backed up on node 1, and then VM3, VM4 that are running on node 1 is getting backed up to node 0. So each node backs each other up. So let's talk about availability for a second. So in an HA mode, the image is in an offline state. So your recovery time is the time it takes for that OS to boot up and the application to start. And roughly speaking, that's probably around 3 to 4 minutes on average. On some other solutions, it can even be faster. In FT mode now, the backup image is kind of like in a quasi-online state. So it's not putting out on the wire, but the image is running in the background waiting to take control. So the recovery time is a few seconds. So when the image, so if node 0 should happen to fail, node 3 and 4 are still running these images. VM1 and VM2 start up within a few seconds. So you might say, well, why don't you have fault tolerant for all your images? And it does come at a cost for 2 vCPUs, and we'll go into that in a second. I just wanted to show you a demo, and my nodes connected here in the office. I have a node 0 and node 1, they're 110Is. I have my blue and yellow cables. That's A-Link cables that facilitates the synchronization between the two nodes. I got a production network, P1 coming out, and P1 coming out on node 0. Both of those are connected into a switch, and that switch is connected to a laptop. The laptop's running WinTMC. So I got a Rockwell image that's loaded on node 1, and I got WinTMC running over here. So real quick, when we log into the IP address of the solution, you can see it's web-based. I can easily see I got node 0, node 1. These two nodes comprise of a system, and then you got your virtual machines on top of that. Very easy to see here at a glance that there's no outstanding issues. I'm going to jump right to the virtual machine section so I can show you the demo. And we can see here under the virtual machines tab, the activity. I can see that I have a couple of VMs. They're in a stop state, and I have one that's running. And this is my Rockwell demo, Mr. Demo. And over here, it tells me what protection I have. So for a 110i, I can have HA protection or FT. Remember, the 100i only does HA. Over here just gives you the name of the image that you chose. And then over here, important is where the node, the application resides. And here you can see it's residing on node 1. So node 1 is actually running the show. So if I go back here, node 1 is running my Rockwell demo, and it's constantly getting backed up on node 0 in an offline state. So let me switch gears here. And here's my WinTMC. If you guys are familiar with Thin Manager, I have Thin Manager running on the demo client there. So I can click into each one of these windows, and I can go into my packaging center there. I could go to Mighty Qs here and go see what's going on with my plant over there. I got a couple more windows running in the background here. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to simulate a failure. And I'm going to come over here, and you can see from my demo that I was talking about is I have my two production networks. I have one coming out of node 1 connected to the switch, and I got node 0 connected to the switch. And my A-Link cables are direct connect between the two nodes. Again, that facilitates the synchronization between the two nodes. I'm going to simulate a failure. We know the image is running over here right now, and I'm going to unplug the production network. Okay, so the production network's unplugged. I don't have any production network coming out of here, but yet you still see the screen there. I'm still processing data. I didn't wireframe. I still connected to the application. So the system is smart enough to notice that it lost its production network, so it rerouted its traffic through the A-links coming out of node 0 here. Now, while that's all happening in the background, node 1 knows it's in a compromised state, so node 0 spins up that image over here and eventually takes control. Again, that's a seamless operation to the operators. The operators, we just had a catastrophic failure here. Maybe a forklift, ripped this cable out. But as far as the operators are concerned, they're still accessing the application and everything's running fine. So let's take a look at what's going on here. If I go back into my virtual machine tabs, I can see I got some activity going on here. I noticed that the images that were running on node 1 are now running on node 0. I could take a look at the dashboard. The dashboard, I could see very plain that node 1 has no link or no carry because we lost that no link, no carry. We lost the cable here. So you can see that this was all autonomous. The system did all the moving of the VMs, all the recording of the issue, all in the background, and that's the autonomous feature that's built into this, and the simplicity factor. Nobody had to go in to say, all right, now I got to run that image over here so it can access my data. So as far as the operators are concerned, everything's running as normal here. So we all talk about the failure scenarios a lot, but let's talk a little bit about how do you recover from a failure, right? So let's say this node totally went down, right? And then this node's running the show. All you have to do is Stratus, if you have a service contract, will ship you a brand new node, and all the operator has to do is unplug the Ethernet cables, the A-Link cables, and the power, unrack it. If you have it on a DIN rail, unmount it, plug back in the cables with the new node, and plug in the power, and automatically node 0 will recognize the new node's been plugged in and start the resynchronization process automatically. Your users are still running through this whole process. There's no downtime when you do a replacement. So after the replacement, when this node synchronizes back up, whatever images that were running here get moved over from node 0, so you're back to where you started from in a recovery process. So if you had a solution similar to this, let's say like you had Dell boxes and you're using VMware, there comes a cost of complexity for the repair cycle. And that is that you need to buy a new Dell server, right? So you're going to go out, you're going to need to purchase a new Dell server. They might not have the exact same model you bought 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So now you got a new model. Well, maybe that new model doesn't work with the version of VMware that you're running. So you can see that there's levels of complexity when you try to go from a broken state back to a running in a duplex state. With the Stratus solution, that's very easy because we sell you the box. It comes with the software already preloaded, and the nodes know about each other. So when one's plugged in, the resynchronization process starts automatically. I went through a lot there. Does anybody have any questions? Did you get any questions on the email there?
Yeah, there's nothing in the chat yet, Mike.
Okay, great. So let me just pause here for a second. And you can see here that now I plugged in the Ethernet cable, that things are moving back. So we can see that the images that were running over here in node 0 now got moved back over to node 1 where they're residing. So let's take a look at the system real quick. Other parts of the dashboard here. You can see here kind of like the KPIs. So we got the CPU allocation, memory, and storage. And we also break down that information, utilization information on node 0 and node 1 with the CPU, memory, and disk, the network. If we go down to preferences here, this is where you would set up information that's unique to the box. You can check your product licenses from here. IP configuration, you notice that node 0 has an IP address, node 1 has one, and then we have the system IP address here. And that corresponds to what I'm connected through on this web page. So if node 0 or node 1 should happen to fail, you don't have to remember node 1's IP address or node 2's IP address to access this web page. That's because 250 is shared between these two nodes. So if node 0 is hosting this and it went down, it will reconnect after 252 takes over this IP address. I always recommend hooking up a mail server to this, and we'll talk about that in 1 second. But you would just enable a mail server, and you could utilize a POP3 type of mail arrangement. As Walter was mentioning, the security portion here is you could have your local users that would manage this solution. You could add, edit. Also, which is a nice feature, is their Active Directory shop. You can enable Active Directory, so then everything goes through Active Directory. IP tables is built into the product, which is nice. You can apply that just to the host, or you can apply it to the host as well as the guests. Backing up all these preferences is very easy. You go to the Save System Preferences. You can save it out locally, or you can save it out to the Stratus Cloud, and you can restore the same way. So going back to notifications. So if you're in an air gap situation, how does Stratus know that a node goes bad? So we have multiple ways to notify the end user to reach out to Stratus. One of them is e-alerts, so you can set up e-alerts. That's in conjunction with this mail server. Anything that breaks in the server will email somebody to say, hey, you need some attention on this server. We had a broken Ethernet connection on node 1, like I just showed you. You can also set up, built into the product, is SNMP configuration, and probably more popular is the OPC configuration. And I actually have that connected and enabled right now, and I'm listening to port 4840. So if I run back over to my Rockwell demo, and I kind of got like a quick and dirty solution here to pull out a few tags, but if I go to here, I can see that my management IP tag is here. I can see my node 0's primary, the IP addresses, how many VMs I have total, how many are stopped, how many are running. And then more importantly here, this one tag, if you were going to just use one tag, this would be the tag. If it's 0, that means there's something wrong with the solution and you need to have Stratus come and take a look at it, or if it's healthy, which is 1. Another nice feature that's built into the product, say I wanted some more information about how to configure OPC, I could come right up here, this question mark, and it brings me right to the OPC settings. So it's another nice feature that's built into the product. So if I went to the mail server, I wanted some more information about mail server, I would hit the question mark, and it gives me right to the configuring the mail server section. It's nice built into the product, like I mentioned. Jumping down here to virtual machines, we went over some of these features here. If I wanted to bring up a console for this virtual machine, I could just click the console button, and that brings me right into my image. And I could sit here and I could manage the solution from here, load hot fixes and whatnot. Another nice feature that's built into the product is this monitoring feature. And we could monitor the CPU memory utilization of the VM itself. And we can make that an actionable alert by doing that email. So if you set up an email alert, you could find out if this image is running low on either CPU memory or disk space or running high for CPUs. Maybe we want to see if we're running over 75% for this virtual machine. That would give you an actionable alert and send you an email.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Jeff Scott asked the question if Zero Watchdog built into those tags, and I don't know if what you just said answered that question or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the question either when we're talking Watchdog. Maybe
Jeff, if you chime in, go ahead.
Sure thing. Hi, guys.
Hi.
The tags for monitoring the connection and the health of the server that you were referencing a minute ago in the OPC section.
Yes.
Is there a watchdog running in the background so that if that connection between the OPC client and server is lost, that you'll get an alert of that as well? Oh, kind of like the connection status tags on the Ethernet IP side.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to facilitate that. So you're saying on the ZTC side or the OPC side?
I guess it would probably be on. What was that?
Rockwell software has a tag here that says it can't connect to the solution.
And I guess that would have to be running back and forth in the background, but I didn't know if that was baked in under the hood or not.
Yeah, it would have to be on the client side, the Stratus, the OPC server, that it will alert you that it's not making a connection to or the client's not making a connection to it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Excuse me. Another thing for the networking side here, we can see that our P1s are connected here. So it's kind of like a graphical showing you the front of the machine and the back of the machine. These are my two A-Link cables. These are running at 10 gig. They're direct connect. And then my P1 connections are 1 gigabyte. So on the 110i, you have up to 6 Ethernet ports that you could provision out. Just going back to virtual machines, very easy to create a virtual machine by clicking on the Create wizard. Brings me into the screen, the first screen here. And here's where you can see I'm on a 110i, so I have the availability of going from fault tolerance or high availability. I'm going to select HA for now. BIOS or UEFI, and then VCD. I have a couple of ISO images on the ZTC itself, so that helps speed things along when you create images. And this is a Windows 2016 image. And if I hit next, here's where I would select the number of vCPUs. So let's say I wanted 3 vCPUs for this image. Now I changed my mind and I want it to be a fault tolerant image. And by clicking back and then hitting fault tolerant, and then clicking next, you can see here now that it's adding an additional 2 vCPUs for this image. So the total number of vCPUs, virtual CPUs, is going to be 5. And that's because of the overhead to keep that other image running on the other side available for that few second cutover time. By hitting next here, I could set up my volume size. So this is my C drive. If I wanted a D drive, I would add a new volume here. Here's my network creation section. I only have one network plugged in, P1. If I had multiple networks plugged in, it would show me P2, P3, P4, and I could select or deselect each one of those, have them assigned to that virtual machine. And then by clicking next, this kind of gives you kind of the summary page, very similar to what VMware does. And then by clicking finish, I would go through the creation process. And I'm not going to do it here because it takes some time. But that's how you would create an image. Over here, we could do the import restore. And what I'm going to do is let me just plug in my USB drive. And we have a number of ways you can import the image. I always recommend using the USB because if you import from the PC or from a network share, you're going across that 1 gigabit connection, and that will take some time if the images are quite large. Some of these OVF files can be 70, 100 gigabytes. So it does take a while, but if you import it to the USB, it goes much faster. So if I click next, I got my Western Digitals plugged in. I'll do a list of my OVAs. I'll go to my work directory. And then here, my Rockwell demo. And then here's my OVF file. And then I would just click next to import that. And it'll go through the process. I'm not going to do that right now. Again, that does take time. But going back to Walter's point, we have a lot of customers that have VMware Workstation. A lot of times they'll build that whole virtual machine there. Then they could just export it as an OVF file, and then you could just import it right into the Stratus box. So that's how you would create and or get images onto the box here. And then I'll just wrap up with finally the upgrade kits. Very easy to upgrade this solution. So let's go through that. Once there's an upgrade available to the host OS, the Stratus Linux, I can initiate by a single button click saying I want to upgrade this solution to a newer version of the OS. Any images that are running on node 0, once I click that button, get moved over. Again, this is seamless to the operators. The operators will continue to run. All the images will be on node 1. Node 0 takes itself offline, runs through the upgrade process, runs through diagnostics. Once it's up and available with the new OS, it signals node 1, hey, I'm available now. Node 1 then moves all his images over to node 0, and then node 1 goes through that whole process. And after it's complete and running through his diagnostics, whatever images that were running over here get moved back over. And again, that's seamless to the operator. So you just upgraded the host OS on both of these nodes without taking an outage at the customer site. So very nice way to upgrade. The last thing I want to show you is this ZTC Advisor. So say you had multiple ZTCs. And you wanted to manage it with a single pane of glass. So if you had 30 units or 20 units, even 5 units, it might be nice to just go onto our dashboard page and it shows you the status of the system that are healthy. I got 26 that lost communication, and I got one that's a critical alarm. And by clicking, if I want to see what my critical alarm is, just by clicking that, just shows me just that one node, and I can see it's my Singapore unit, and node 0 is unreachable. So this is a nice way to manage your fleet of ZTCs with a single pane of glass here. We can take a look at my two systems. I happen to call them Mike. And by doing a search for that, I have my 100i and my 110. I can see that my 110 is healthy, and I can see my 100 hasn't been connected. Last time it was connected 39 days ago. So these lost communication is handy for you to find out if the system cannot no longer communicate with the outside world. And that's how we take care of, we group them into this lost communication thing. So I know my system has been offline, so I know it's nothing to worry about, but you might have something that you need to worry about, and you click that. So I can see all my lost communications. Again, I go here, I can see my healthy, and if I want to see healthy and critical, I can click on that. So it's a nice tool to aggregate the systems. And if I wanted to log in, this is important now, you can see that this is an external facing website. If I wanted to log into that Singapore site, let's say, because I'm not on that network, I'm not going to get the screen for the login. So that's kind of like a security feature that's kind of built in, because that tab takes you to that domain, right? So if you're not on that domain, it's not going to show you that system. So if I go to my mic one, and it's right here, and I click it, it opens up because I'm on that domain. So you can see that it opens it up, and if I was, and it would ask you, since I'm already logged in, it would ask you for a login and a password to log into the thing. So that's a quick and easy way to manage a whole fleet of FT servers. And I'm done with the presentation. And I'm happy to take any questions or go over any other portion of the system.
Nothing in the chat, Mike. So ZTC is a relatively new addition to your line, isn't it? I mean, that's been only available a few years now.
So, it's funny you say that, because, yeah, the ZTC itself, where we're selling the hardware, is new. But the underlying software has been around Stratus for a long time. So it's not like the software portion of it, it's been around for at least 7 or 8 years.
Right, and Coop, I know within Rockwell, I know Mike Riethmeyer's on the call here from Rockwell, but we've done a lot of packaging, and I don't want to call it Plant PAX in a box, but you've made some offerings with Rockwell software that is proven. You mentioned Thin Manager. There's other software within Rockwell, the Plant PAX in particular, but it's a proven, tested system. So.
Yep. Yeah. And if you can see my screen, we've got a landing page. If people on the call want to learn more about Stratus, we've got a Rockwell page as well, talking about our relationship, but also some featured content. We talk about Thin Manager and some data sheets, and then systems integrators that use our product out there in their projects, and the sizing tool you can download from here as well. So I just want to make that offer up. And also, anybody on the call, we do have proof of concept demo boxes that we ship around too. So we've had customers that were looking to put a few of these in their facilities, and they wanted to test them out. Just contact your Rexel salesperson if that's something you might want to take advantage of.
Mike, depends on the configuration, but Steve Breen from, I think, Unifrax, Steven asked about price. So roughly an estimate of ZTC server versus FTC server.
Yeah, so the ZTC, the two flavors, 100i and 110i. The 100i dual unit is about $10,000. The 110i is about $15,000. And an FT server is pretty much configurable. We have 3 different flavors of that: the 2900, the 4900, and the 6900. And those range from 20 grand to 250 grand, depending on what you want to build out. And that's where the 2 smart guys here, Mike and Walter, get on calls with me with customers all day long. We help build out the server for their requirements, for their CPU usage, their how many VMs, what their storage needs are. So that's more of a custom type quote. So
And I would call an FT server more of an enterprise, and I know it's not, we're talking about industrial applications, but the ZT servers, like you said, it's something that you could put in a panel out at the edge, collecting data, and it's plug and play, right? It's just set it and forget it.
Yeah, it's as like I said, a lot of folks, we're doing a lot in water, wastewater now with pumping stations, lift stations, remote areas where maybe there's not an IT person at the ready at all times, where they can basically, like you said, plug it in. The node fails, you're either alerted internally or it tells us. A new one ships out. Pop the yellow and blue cable out, power, pop them back in. No intervention needed at all. So the ease of use is a huge value point to a lot of companies that want to put these in, besides the, not going down critical factor. So that's where we've seen a lot of folks migrate towards this product.
And Rexel, just on the specialist team, we do have some people, I think you call your startup Jumpstart, right? Isn't that the name?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jumpstart.
We're certified to help. We have local support. I'll be at Cooper's. Greg's only over in Syracuse. Mike, I think you're somewhere in New England, no? I can't.
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Sorry. Yeah.
Walter and Mike are my Jersey boys. So,
but we're here for local support too on this. We've recently had some installations of Stratus, and like Greg is telling you, it's been pretty seamless. So proven, tested system, and again, it was in high-level enterprise banking industry, and that's where you guys have been around. I missed that. Was that 40 years you said? No.
Yeah, it's maybe 41 now.
I'm getting old. I do remember you from the enterprise level world.
Yeah, Walter's been there for 33 of them. So, and Mike's 25, I think.
Yep.
Any other questions? You can come off mute. You don't have to, Stephen. Did we answer your questions, Stephen? I think we gave the price range there.
Yeah, let us know how we can help you guys. Like I said, if you can reach out to your Rexel folks if you need some more data sheets, some success stories in your industry, or the sizing tools. We've got all kinds of information that we can help you with, and talk to you guys. The ZTC you can set up on your own. I did it here at my desk, and Mike Riefmeyer is on the call. He's probably falling over in his chair right now, thinking that Greg Cooper set anything up that actually has electricity going to it. So.
It shows how user-friendly it is.
There he is.
Anyone else have any questions, even from my team or from the Rexel team or the Rockwell team? Not only just any of our clients, anybody who wants to chime in on anything we might have missed or question. This was good. It hopefully was worthwhile. Like I said, reach out to me directly or my specialist team or your outside sales rep, and we can help you. And I know, like Greg and his team, I appreciate it. Walter and Mike and Greg, thank you for taking your time today.
Absolutely, anytime. Hope to work more with you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.